June 24th, 2003 was the day that Olympus rocked the camera industry with the announcement of the first DSLR that was designed and built from the ground up for digital imaging, and that was the E1. It wasn't a legacy body that used lenses from the days of film. No, it was an entirely new system with new lenses to match. On that same day, Olympus announced 4 lenses for the new E1, and 2 of those lenses, the 50mm f2 macro and the 11-to-22mm f2.8-3.5, are among my very favorites to this day. I have a sneaking suspicion, though, that the 300mm f2.8 would also be on that favorites list, but I've never owned or used one, but I'm still looking for the right one at a good price. When I got into the Olympus system with a few months after it was announced, the 11-to-22mm f2.8-3.5 was one of the very first 3 lenses that I bought. It was the OG wide-angle option at the time, and while I tended to opt for the 50-to-200mm lens for the majority of my shots because of the types of photos I was taking at the time, I loved the images I got from the 11-to-22mm. In full-frame terms, the 11-to-22 provides a field of view of 22 to 44 millimeters. It's not what you would consider an ultra-wide zoom, but it's a very nice range for everyday walk-around photography. The price of the 11-to-22mm lens was right around $800 at the time, a couple of $100 more than the 14-to-54mm f2.8-3.5, which had almost a 4x zoom range. That extra money and the shorter 2x zoom range of the 11-to-22 resulted in a better optical design and image quality in the overlapping focal range between those 2 lenses. The 14-to-54mm with its full-frame equivalent field of view of 28 to 108 had some extra reach on the telephoto side of things without giving up too much at the wide end. That made it a more versatile lens when you were out and about and you wanted to be prepared for just a little bit of everything. But if you knew your own style and you liked to work more with wider angles, the 11-to-22mm lens was the one that you picked for ultimate image quality, at least in the beginning. The 11-to-22mm lens was a mid-tier or high-grade lens for Olympus overall, but at the time, there were only 4 lenses released, and nobody knew that later on there would be 3 distinct lines of lenses based on price and image quality. As mentioned in its specs, the 11-to-22mm lens is a variable aperture zoom with a max aperture of 2.8 to 3.5 depending on the focal length. The minimum aperture size is f22. It features 12 elements in 10 groups, and 2 of those are spherical elements. Now, unlike today's world of groovy bokeh lenses with 9 to 11 aperture blades, the 11-to-22mm lens only has 7 blades, so it's not going to be the world champion at eye-pleasing bokeh, or bokeh as some people say, but it makes up for that in other areas. It features a distance scale, the depth of field scale, and it has a filter thread size of 72 millimeters. It's 3.64 inches long and weighs 480 grams, or about 1.07 pounds. It's not what you would call a tiny or small lens, but it's still rather compact and smaller than common f2.8 24 to 70mm lenses that you will see on full-frame cameras. And as a matter of fact, I have it here. This is the 11-to-22mm f2.8-3.5. As you can see, it's not really a large lens, but it's a little dense, it's just a little bit chunky. It's very well made. It has Olympus's famous weatherproofing, weather sealing, has a focus by wire ring up front, has this nicely textured zoom range. This particular copy that I have I can hear a little bit of grit, but other than that, it's well dampened, moves nicely. And as you can see here on this one, when the lens extends, when you're coming into the 11mm side, the lens actually pulls back when you're zooming out. That was kind of weird to me at first because most lenses will extend when you're zooming in on something, not when you're zooming out. This kind of does the opposite. but we'll get into a little bit more about it in just a little bit. As I mentioned, it does feature the focus by wire ring, has the manual focus ring that's really nicely textured, built solid, great, has everything that you could want in a basic lens. Now, it doesn't have the features like today's modern mirrorless bodies and lenses have, like the function buttons on the side, but this'll get you through whatever you need to get done. Now, for those that are more interested in clinical aspects, such as sharpness, distortion, aberration, all those kinds of things, it should be noted that in most cases, the 12 to 60 millimeter f2.8 to f4 lens that came out a couple of years later, and that was a couple of $100 more expensive than this lens, seems to be objectively better in most areas. The 12 to 60 is sharper in the center and on the edges, and it has less issues with chromatic aberration, which affects the 11 to 22 millimeter more at the wide end at max apertures. Once you stop the 11 to 22 down a bit, though, things improve significantly. On the other hand, the 11 to 22 millimeter, according to a few reviews, outperforms the 12 to 60 with less barrel distortion. Now, I don't do those kinds of measurements myself. I don't even have the equipment to do it, don't know how to do it. But I do rely on those reviews, and I want to stay fair and objective and report things as honestly as possible. As an example, there's a touch of vignetting at the widest end, but it's not bad, and it's easily fixed, when you're doing your post-processing, and it's virtually non-existent at longer focal lengths. The autofunction performs well, though again, the 12 to 60 millimeter lens has the better silent wave drive autofocus system, which makes it quieter and a little faster as well. I keep mentioning the 12 to 60 millimeters better performance in some areas because in the past I've let my fondness for the 11 to 22 millimeter lens cloud my judgment at times, and I've made sweeping statements like the 11 to 22 millimeter is the better lens. Not really the case. When you dig down into the details and you look at things objectively, the 12 to 60 millimeter lens is measurably better in certain areas, and I just don't care. There is something about the 12 to 60 millimeter lens that I don't like, and I just can't put my finger on it. In certain light or particular situations, there's something about the lens that makes the images look dingy or ruddy or hazy or something. Like I said, I just can't quite put my finger on it, but it's there. I recognize it. It clicks in my brain when I see the images. I'll be doing a video on the 12 to 60 millimeters soon, and I actually started all over with it to give it a second chance to take new images with it, so that way you can be the judge later when you see those images. But for me, there's more to a lens than just the clinical measurements of distortion or sharpness or chromatic aberration or whatever else you can quantify. I'm just trying to be objective enough to not say that the 11 to 22 millimeter is better, but I will say that I like it more than the 12 to 60. There's just something about the color and the richness of the images I get with the 11 to 22 that I just don't see with the 12 to 60. But that's a very subjective thing and just my opinion. Plus, it's also possible that I don't have a good copy of the 12 to 60 millimeter. I don't know, but I'm not going to go out and spend more money on it either. I just don't need it. But as far as the 11 to 22 millimeter goes, I love how the images look so much that I currently own 3 of them. And the reason I'm laughing is somebody made a comment a few videos back about the fact that I owned 3 of these lenses and how that was American gluttony on full display. No, it's not. That's American gluttony. This right here, 3 of these, that was just because I found great deals. To be fair, some of my fondness and love for the 11 to 22 millimeter, has to do with the price. I've come across some fantastic deals on the 11 to 22 millimeter in the past few years, and I picked up the most recent one for under $150 in utterly pristine condition. Some of my love is really based more on practicality and the fact that I believe it's one of the best bang for the buck zoom lenses out there at the moment for the Olympus Four Thirds line. I do more wide-angle photography now than back when I first started, and this lens is just a natural choice for me, especially for those times when I'm using smaller DSLRs like the E500 or the E300, and I don't necessarily want to break out the big guns, like the 7 to 14 f4 or the 14 to 35 millimeter f2.0. To give you an idea of why I like this lens so much, I threw together a fairly quick slideshow just to show you, or to give you a basic impression of the 11 to 22 and what it's capable of in different situations. I'm keeping this slideshow a little shorter than my last video slideshow, just to keep the length of this video manageable and to let you move on with your life in quicker fashion this time around. A couple of the images in the slideshow are there for color or mood more than for the composition or technical excellence of the image. Have a look at these images in the slideshow, and then we'll come back and finish things up. And there you go. That's the 11 to 22 millimeter f2.8-3.5. What are your thoughts on the lens? What did you think of the images? Have you used one of these lenses before, or do you use one now? Jump into the comments if you would and share your views about the lens, or if you use it, share any tips that can help other folks get the most out of this little piece of glass. I'm always amazed though by how little information there is on YouTube for these older but not ancient Olympus lenses and bodies. I did a quick search for the 11 to 22 millimeter and found only one English-speaking video made about it in the last decade, and I think that's a real shame. And that's also part of the reason why I do these videos on the older bodies and lenses. I think there should be more information available to people that are interested in exploring older systems like the Olympus Four Thirds system. Now, while the 11 to 22 millimeter lens isn't the most amazing lens ever made, it is still a very, very good lens that is robustly built and that features Olympus's vaunted weatherproofing. But more importantly, with today's economy and how expensive cameras and lens bodies are getting to be, the 11-22 is a fantastic option to pick up with a little patient shopping just to find the right price. Like I said, I found the last one for under $150, and I think that's about the best price I've ever paid for a zoom lens of this quality. Another bonus is that you can use this lens and other 4/3 lenses on micro 4/3 bodies with an adapter, and for the same or less money that you would pay for a kit lens, you'll get better image quality and better build quality as well. It won't focus as fast as a native micro 4/3 lens, but it's no slouch in that area either. The autofocus is more than fast enough for the vast majority of people. And speaking of adapting lenses to micro 4/3, I've got some videos planned where we do a little bit of that with different 4/3 lenses mounted on micro 4/3 bodies, just to kind of give you an idea of what you can reasonably expect to get from older lenses on newer, more modern cameras. I promise it's on the agenda and in the works, but it just takes time to get out, experiment, and take enough photos to put something together to make one video. Just bear with me on that front. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you got a little insight into the 11-22, and maybe it sparked some interest on your side to try one out in the future, just to try something different and have a little bit of fun. I hope my fellow citizens had a great Independence Day celebration, and if there's anything you liked about or found entertaining in this video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you'd hit the like or subscribe button, or just jump into another video to help move this channel along. It's going to be a long climb to where I want to be with this venture, and every little bit of help from you all matters, and it will make that journey easier. Thanks again for watching, and I'm going to talk to you soon.